education, and lastly, policy. Um, Housing, I'm going to start with housing because I have never seen anything like this. I thought when the pandemic started that a lot of the Northeast populated areas would now really leave those populated areas, but I didn't think it would start immediately. The housing is just going crazy. So I want to tell you about some of the projects that have been approved and site plans begun. The East Argent program, which is up. It starts across from Oldfield and ends on Argent Boulevard down at Hampton Point. What we approved in the last, I'm going to say, since summer, there's a project called the Mansions. That's an independent living facility. It'll have a central building and cottages and little amenities, landscape trails and lagoons. And that's going to be 380 units. There's a project called the Retreat that started also. And this is D.R. Horton building that 630 units were approved. There's we just approved a couple months ago the Hunt Club. That's 500 homes, and that's being built by Farino. Grand Point is a smaller 23-acre tract that's going to have 312 apartments. And we're probably going to finish the second ordinance approval tonight on townhomes called Cobblestone, which is right next to Hearthstone Lakes. All of those are part of the East Argent tract, which has a total outcome of 9,500 homes that were approved a few years ago. We also approved 290 acres. It's a municipal improvement district, and we expect to see that site plan come through very soon. There's also another project, which I can't divulge. I saw just last week that will probably bring 1,500 homes on about 600 acres. That's somewhere around 2,800 homes that we've approved site plans for. There's a project downtown that the first 37 homes are under construction. It's going to be 600 total. It's called Millstone Landing, and next to our the Royal Live Oaks Charter School is a project of called Royal Oak of 275 homes. Also, Toll Brothers has begun fixing up the golf course, adding amenities, and they're going to start selling homes again over at Hampton Point. The permitting, in spite of COVID, over a record year in 2019, our single family home permits rose 16%. We had a little slowdown in April, May, but it kicked right back up. So, and we're probably on a pace, just looking at the first 2 months so far, we'll probably hit somewhere in the neighborhood of 800 to 1,000 new single family home permits this year. So if you add us all together, the 2,800 homes that are going to get started in East Argent, and the new project, the mid district, and the new permits, that's a grand total of 5,600 homes. Now, of course, there's 10, 15-year build outs there, but these are projects approved and will start getting shovels in the ground this year. So it's a tremendous amount of building, and it's not all. A lot of the East Argent is not age restricted, so we're getting, and the projects downtown. So we're getting workforce quality homes in the, I'm going to say, somewhere between the $175,000 to $250,000 range. So that's kicking up quite a bit. So that's the housing side of the new things that are going on in Hardeeville. On the industrial side, there's been a lot of uh, talk and publicity about the Exit 3 project. That's moving ahead. In fact, I'm going to Columbia next Wednesday, and we're going to finalize the timetable on the construction of that project with the SIB Bank and SCDOT. Down in that project area is a section called Riverport, and that's where Exit 3 is being built. There's going to be a 4.5 mile road built from the exit to Highway 17, and that's just north of the Savannah Wildlife Preserve. And at the end of that road, North Signal Capital started building warehousing space, and they're spec buildings. What they do is build and then lease because they are part of the promise zone, and so there's certain tax implications by doing it that way. So they're building and they're leasing. The first tenant on the first building was completed last summer, 150,000 square feet. The first tenant, which is retrofitting the building now in 60,000 square feet, will be Home Depot. They also got another tenant in there, and they're not announced yet, but that building's filling up. The second building is 300,000 square feet, and that is up, and that will have a CO very soon, within the next month or two. And the third building of 300,000 square feet is starting now, and that is hopefully going to be completed sometime later this year. And now they'll all start filling up. So that's really the excitement that's going on in Hardeeville, because it's going to bring a lot of new jobs for our residents and for the entire region, and that's important. In addition to that, we have been developing a business, commercial, industrial park by Exit 5. It's on 165 acres that the city owns outright. There's no debt on that. And we've been getting grants, EDA grants, rural infrastructure grants, and we're putting in a new road, water, sewer, all the infrastructure into that park, and we've already sold a number of lots there. So that's going to be an important development, not only for bringing light industry and logistics warehousing, but also because the city owns this, we're going to be able to take that capital and reinvent it into some projects that we have coming forward. And I'm going to talk about that later on. There's also a lot of activity in what's known as the Sherwood Tract, and that's also along 17. And that 1,500 acre tract, 500 of it was bought by the state, invested in that, and looking to reserve that for an OEM, an original equipment manufacturer. There's a lot of interest in that, because what's happening, I went to the Georgia Port Authority a couple of weeks ago. The Georgia Port Authority is not only the number 3 biggest port in the United States, but it's also the fastest growing port in the last 10 years. So Hardeeville now is become the closest available land to that port. And they make money by turning these containers around. And Hardeeville is close enough that a truck, which is usually an independent operator, can turn around 4 to 6 times. So that's 8 to 12 trips that a truck can make, and that really relieves the port, and that gives them the ability to offload more. So that they turned around 4.7 million TEUs last year, and they're going to raise capacity with the addition of Hutchinson Island up to 11.5 million TEUs in the coming future. So they're really growing. And I only mention that because Hardeeville's industrial zone is the benefactor of beneficiary of that activity. On the commercial side, that's probably been the biggest disappointment. We haven't had the development in Margaritaville commercial area that we were expecting by now. Um, but we have put started a Fairfield Inn by Exit 8, and that's right next to the Hampton Inn by Exit 8. And after 3 years, I think I can safely say the Hampton Inn will finally open this year. Um, Along in Okatee, last year, Okatee Pines Retirement Center opened up, and that's a beautiful facility. And right next to that is the Buford Memorial new facility that they put up there, and that's open and operating now. And there's also there's a Quick Mart, pretty big facility it's another truck stop at Exit 5. So we do have some commercial activity, not as much, particularly in the restaurant area that we were hoping by now. On the social side, we will open next month our $8.5 million recreation center. The facility is going to be beautiful, and we're going to have a nice gala opening, and I'll make sure we get some invitations out to you all. We have started the renovation of our recreation complex behind City Hall. We put in a new playground. We put in covered basketball courts, which I actually got the idea from Bluffton, and that just got finished, and a new dog park. A lot of activity there. We did last year master planning for a renovation of what we call White Hardy Boulevard, which is Highway 17, which is the main drag between Exit 8 and Exit 5 that parallels I-95. We have a whole plan. It's going to take a lot of years. It's a $12 million plan, and we're going to implement that over the next, hopefully, 12 years. We also, off Main Street, right off of White Hardy Boulevard, we did master planning for what we call a municipal hub. And we're going to be adding things like pocket parks and a Veterans Memorial Park. And that's where we have the Argent train exhibit, and we're going to try to renovate that as well. So that's going to be, we're trying to make a very strong, nice looking community area. We also recently partnered with Bluffton Self-Help, and they're going to be in our library right in that hub area. They're going to be giving skills training, GED preparations, the basic computer skills, job hunt training, resume building, things like that. And they're going to be operating 3 days a week out of our library. And with the large amount of young people in Jasper County who do not have high school degrees, we're really excited about what that can do. Because as all these new jobs come in, we want our residents to benefit from it. It does no good if we bring in all these businesses. Yes, we get taxes, but the whole point of that is to give our people job opportunities that they haven't had for generations. I'm very proud of Coastal Carolina Hospital. They've helped us with testing that we arranged through our churches back in the summer. A couple of weeks ago on the 5th, we had a vaccination event in our middle school, and that was intended to help the people in rural Jasper County come in and have the opportunity to get vaccinated, particularly people who don't have technology availability. So everything was done by paper, and the staff and the volunteers entered it into the system for the people. So that was really good. And the one thing I'm really excited on the social side, we have 1,300 acres of a conservation easement, and we're going to get it master planned this coming fiscal year, and we're going to turn that into a passive recreation center, similar in concept to Sea Pines. so that, the whole region can enjoy passive outdoor activities. On the education front, we have a dynamic superintendent, and she's making a lot of progress in a school district that hasn't had the greatest of reputations. And I think it's having an effect. As you see, I talked about all these housing. These are not senior housing that's coming. People are anticipating the continued improvement in our public school system. Uh, Royal Live Oaks, our charter school, opened a brand new campus last January, only to be shut down in March because of COVID. A couple of months ago, the Ridgeland Hardeeville High School opened a new uh, technology training building. It's a beautiful building, and there's a lot of skills training going to go for the kids there. Um, we started a workforce training program uh, thanks to a grant, and we have in our public works building, we've already graduated about 20 students, and they've gotten certificates in welding, OSHA warehouse safety, and forklift driving. So we're trying to prepare the residents between getting the soft skills with self-help, Bluffton self-help, and with the skills training at our public works building, is getting our residents prepared for the jobs that are coming. And the high school also opened an aeronautics and aviation lab last year. And so they're getting a lot of different kind of training there as well. So the schools are really making great progress. In policy, I've been big on, as we grow, we need to set policies so that our growth is smart growth and planned growth. Um, I've called for an annexation policy, and we're forming a committee. Each one of our council people will be heading one of these committees. We want to define growth boundaries. I, for one, give an easy example. I don't think the city of Hardeeville should cross 170 into Beaufort County. Um, I, I think 170 is a natural borderline, and I think we should maintain it as such. But we do need to define our annexation policy so that our staff doesn't, and applicants don't waste time and money on applying for annexation when it doesn't fit into the policy of the council. I'm also very concerned about our growth and the encroachment into our wetlands. And there were some wetlands delineation rules changes, and we've already had one training session to get uh, a little better understanding as a council on what those rules are. But I want to define a policy for wetlands mitigation. We do not want to destroy the environment that we all came down here to enjoy as we grow. There has to be some sort of overall concept and game plan on how we deal with the environment as all these projects continue to come our way. I also want committee I've asked for to define how we can beautify the 278 corridor. Right now, it's a grass median, and Bluffton has done some nice work in putting medians in. And from what I've been told, after those medians mature with those plantings, it actually will be less maintenance in a couple of years. And of course, it looks more beautiful, and it does have a more calming effect on traffic. Those are not my words. I'm copying from somebody else. But I think we do need to have a game plan for trying to beautify 278, because as Chris mentioned, we are the gateway into the low country. I talked about making sure our workers benefit from the growth of jobs in the area. Another area that I really want to get our hands around, and that is the homeless population. And homeless for us is not just people living in the woods. It's people who live day to day or week to week inside some pretty ratty hotels along Highway 17. Um, we need to find ways to help them get out of that situation by giving them the job training, getting them their GEDs, and doing so. We have to have a plan for that, and we're going to try to get that going. The other big thing, and I'll end with this, as all this development comes in, we are more and more concerned about the traffic that we are building as a result of it. So much of that is out of our control because they're state-owned roads. The money is committed elsewhere, and so we have to do what we can do within our ability to influence. Um, and that means using developer fees to improve certain roadways into these new developments. The focus of right now, and we've had a workshop a couple of weeks ago, is Argent Boulevard. Argent Boulevard is a major thoroughfare for people who go from Savannah to Beaufort, and that is the East Argent development, and Sun City is going crazy. They're developing 500 new homes that we approved back in 2019. And so we're working on a whole plan for that street and what we can do, lighting, turn lanes, caution, the caution lighting or signs. So that's dealing with our roadways is a tremendous priority that we have to take on. The great growth requires taking on great responsibility. So it's not only social responsibility, but roadways responsibility. And one good thing, very bad intersection at Hilton Head Lakes and Margaritaville on 278. That light has been approved. You cannot believe how long it takes to get the equipment to put it up there. But by Christmas, there will be a traffic light at Margaritaville. So that's it. I timed myself 23 minutes, Hannah. How'd I do? Okay. I'm open for any questions.
Mayor, I've got a couple questions for you, and thank you for that informative report there. And also, you've just been such a blessing, not only for Hardeeville, but the entire region with your leadership and your vision of what that has brought to the region. So thank you for that. First question is, you mentioned Home Depot. Is Home Depot going to be a retail store, distribution center? Which will that be?
It's a distribution center. And again, Bill, as I said before, the key for this supply chains is to get it into the dock, get it into a distribution center, get it out to the stores. And with the proximity of that particular location, that's the Home Depot game plan.
Great. The last question is on Margaritaville. How are home sales going there? I haven't heard lately.
They can't build them fast enough. Huh. Last year they sold 350 homes, and they're on a pace. They could hit 500 this year. Their original plan was 300 a year for 10 years. They just can't build them fast enough. They opened their amenity center right before COVID hit. It was the first week in March. A beautiful $30 million. It's a beautiful amenity center, and I think that helped their sales quite a bit.
For those of you who don't know, Mayor Williams is the second child in a family of 10. So he learned very early on how to get along and play well with others, and that's been exemplary as your time as the mayor.
My siblings wouldn't agree with all that.
Hey, Mayor, it's Chris Corcoran. I heard something recently, and I'm not sure, maybe you can expand on some of the details of a shift from, we've all been waiting for this port project now, what seems like for a long time, but my understanding was there was a recent shift to, I guess, giving some more authority to maybe Jasper County from the Ports Authority and what's going on? Does that feel like that helps really start this thing moving forward now?
Well, I can only say that I wish Jasper County all the luck in the world. But, and they have been very critical and very upset with the fact that the Port Authority has not fulfilled their promises. So they felt they have a better chance of getting that project moved forward if they did it themselves. I can only say I wish them luck. But I'm more pragmatic. Hardeeville is really hitching its start to the Georgia Port Authority. I will be long dead, and everybody in this call will be long dead before a ship sails into the Jasper Ocean Terminal, if my projections are correct. But the Georgia Port Authority is going to bring prosperity to Hardeeville, Jasper County, and the region, and that's what I'm concerned about.
Very good. Thank you.
Hey, Mayor Williams, this is Justin Rice, your old fishing buddy. How you doing?
Hi, Justin.
Hey, I got a quick question. You said that the commercial space really hasn't fulfilled your expectations. What's the town doing to kind of try and revitalize or give a little resurgence to the private sector investing in the commercial space?
Well, the big thing, first of all, Margaritaville will happen when and I expect that will uptick now that the home sales or the number of homes have increased quite a bit. There's going to be 1,000 homes probably there by the end of the year, and that's going to spur that. The other thing that we're doing as a community, I mentioned the revitalization of White Hardy Boulevard. That is our main drag. When there's a backup, which there always is in I-95, and with the widening, you can expect more of that. And all the traffic goes into that main drag. So there's a lot of potential to improve that corridor. Also, right around the corner from it is our rec center. And we built that with largely ATAX money, and we were able to do that because we built it into a regional activity center. College basketball games, for example. So with that coming and attracting large numbers of visitors to that center for events, we hope that as we change the corridor, and there's going to be a lot of work done to it, that will attract more commercial, that our rec center will attract more commercial, and that will spur that growth. But that's going to take time. It's not going as fast as I would like. I'm a little impatient.
Thank you.
Terry, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Really, really appreciate your time and your insights and all that you're doing out there and your communication with us. Keep up the great work out there. Look forward to seeing all the progress coming down the road there.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I wish everyone continued success this year and good luck. And, let's all stay together as a region, because I think a lot of the things that are happening in Hardeeville will be a benefit to the region. I hope so.
Yeah. Thank you.
Be well, everyone. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, next on the call, we are joined this morning by Ariana Pernice from the Chamber. She's going to give us an update on the Bluffton marketing plan and what's going on with the Chamber in Bluffton these days. So Ariana, you there with us?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. As Chris mentioned, my name is Ariana Pernice, and I oversee the Visitor and Convention Bureau here at the Chamber of Commerce. And we have been working hard on all things related to tourism for the town of Bluffton. And I'd love to just share with you a little bit of that detail. If you will, I'm going to share my screen. Are you guys seeing that? Perfect. So we provide the town of Bluffton in our partnership quarterly updates just to keep them, the community and the town council, as well as the mayor, abreast of all things happening regarding tourism to the town of Bluffton. You might have seen we just presented a couple weeks back on their Zoom call, but we thought it would be important to share that information with you. So we're going to dive in. We'd like to start with how the visitors are seeing the town of Bluffton, and we like to think of the website as the virtual front door. As you know, when we look back at Q2, which for a fiscal year, that for us was October, November, and December, we were in the midst of ending the year of COVID, and some of those numbers that you see here are reflective. When we look at occupancy, RevPAR, and ADR specifically, those numbers are down just because of timing, as well as there are 3 properties that contribute to those details. So you have Palmetto Bluff, you have the Old Town Bluffton Inn, and you have Comfort Inn and Suites, and that is within the incorporated town of Bluffton. So that is what is contributing there. We talked about the website and that virtual front door, but people are seeking the town of Bluffton. They're seeking that town, the old town feel. They're also seeking all the excitement that's happening out on Buckwalter. And you can see that being really reflected in these numbers. A couple of years back, we started an initiative to really ramp up the social initiatives and efforts for the town of Bluffton, with the anticipation of standing up the website as a standalone piece. And so the energy behind the social media would really then transfer over to supporting all the great work that's going to be launched shortly for the website. Bluffton has always had a website. It's sat underneath the umbrella of the larger HiltonHeadIsland.org. And so we're just making that transition in the next couple of weeks for it to be standalone. So social media numbers are really telling here. People are engaged and interested. If you give them a sunset, the May River, an animal of any kind, they are loving it. So we have a lot of followers. They continue to grow. We have a comp set that is in place that we track against to make sure our numbers are growing, and we are outperforming all of our comp sets in terms of growth. So that's a really strong number and great sign to see. We in the last quarter, we held over 28 events. We had over 19,000 participants in those events by chamber members in the community. So that's great to see. That includes ribbon cuttings, cocktails and conversations. So all of those together, and that is the collective effort of events for the Chamber of Commerce. You can see a couple of those images there for Town of Bluffton ribbon cuttings, which is great to see. And then I know we have Charlie on the line, but we included the public relations number. These are always important opportunities to see in these numbers. This is collective for the region. This is not just specific to Bluffton, but we like to just bring this to your attention for the fact that people are talking about this area, this region, as we have, from a COVID perspective, we're really based outdoors. People feel during this last 12 months have felt very safe coming here. We have the protocols in place, but there is just a great story to be told in general about the Lowcountry, and those numbers are reflective there. When we look at programs and initiatives, we like to talk about all the great work that's telling that story for Bluffton. We work very closely with the town and the town council to really define what it is that we want to bring to life, right? What are those initiatives that are going to have visitors really pull at the heartstrings of what really appeals to them? And what better way to do it, as we've seen through the last year, it is to have that content in multiple different ways. So not are we telling the story in print, we're telling that story on video, in social media, and digital ads. And one of the really exciting projects that we have and that will launch soon with the new website is bringing Bluffton to life through video. So we've met with several of our stakeholders and partners within Bluffton to tell that story. So we're excited to see that come to fruition and be live on the site. And then we'll be pushing that as well as just a social media component that helps drive people back to the website. We were also partnering with Southern Living Media. So that was in the January, February edition for this year, even though the work was done to ensure that placement in Q2, the distribution was over 900,000, and it was in that Southeast perspective. So South Carolina in terms of distribution, Georgia, North Carolina, and Midwest. We're really taking the approach that, that drive market is very strong for Bluffton, and that radius has grown throughout 2020 and into 21. And so we just want to take advantage of that. And Southern Living is a great partner that reaches our core demographic. We talked about the website, but we also have another exciting initiative coming to fruition. It'll be in our hands early April, and that is a standalone Bluffton vacation planner. And we're very excited to be working very closely to tell that story of Bluffton and bring that book to life. So that piece that lives within the larger book that incorporates the entire Low Country will still be there, but we also wanted to ensure that the town of Bluffton had a standalone piece. And so the team has been working very hard on that. And you can see a couple of those pieces here. But again, that book will be available in early April and distributed at the official Welcome Center, our office in Bluffton, and at the town and various other businesses. So if you're interested, we'll have some copies for you, and we'd love to share that with you. This will also be available on a digital link. The Izu platform will be a piece that you can just view digitally, and all the businesses will be linked, and it'll be a good piece to share if someone isn't able to come in physically to pick it up. The website is on track to launch at the end of March, and we're very excited. We're in the final testing phases of that, and that will be, again, visitbluffton.org, which will be very exciting. So all of this that we're talking about today all works together. So you have a strong social media platform, you have that virtual front door at the website, you have your print components that we've talked about. We've talked about our video series, and all of that is working together to ensure that the out markets that we are targeting and that core demographic of those that we want to come and visit and really invest their time and excitement for Bluffton is coming to fruition, and we'll continue that momentum as we move forward. And that's it. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. And if I'll take any questions, if there are any.
Ariana, thank you very much. I think it's great to see that, while we know Bluffton and Hilton Head are very connected at the same point, it's really nice to see them getting their own website and their own vacation planner. And I don't know if it's you or Bill on the call, but I thought it was very interesting earlier this week when we heard the numbers too from Southwest Airlines. The number of seats coming in per month or on an annual basis was kind of fascinating to me. I thought a number of people at the board meeting, if someone has that number on the call, I'd love to hear you share that with us.
So there are 30,000 seats per month that'll be coming into the Savannah Hilton Head International Airport, or 360,000 additional seats per year. And you hear that term, the Southwest effect. That's certainly the Southwest effect. So 360,000 seats annually coming in just with Southwest.
Right, with the other flights coming starting in April. So I just thought that number was that 30,000 a month. I was going to say it, but I wasn't sure that just seemed like a big number once again. And that's fantastic. We're actually flying some people in next week on Southwest that should be great. So
Good.
Well, very good. Any questions for Ariana before we move on? All right, looks like Hannah Horn with a quick legislative update. Hannah?
Hey guys, good morning. Just some bills that we're monitoring, moving through, and some items of interest, perhaps for you and your business. And I'll just run through these really quick. If you have any additional information that you want, just let me know and I'll get it over to you. There's a hate crimes bill that's gotten a lot of attention in the media recently. South Carolina being only one of 3 states in the country that doesn't have a piece of legislation like this. Hit a couple snags as it was moving through the process back in judiciary here this week. There's a concealed weapons bill that passed the House yesterday. There is a heartbeat bill, an abortion bill that was passed and signed by the governor that increases the restrictions on the timing of when you can have an abortion. However, there's some constitutionality questions about that. So despite the fact that it was passed as legislation, it will likely be struck down by the Supreme Court. The budget is moving through, has already been passed through Ways and Means. And so now the next step, of course, go over to the Senate and then to confer on that. A lot of talk about vaccines, as you know, who should get vaccines and when and what phase and the funding for vaccines. And so we continue to watch moving through those phases. It seems that the majority of questions and drama surrounding vaccines has been cleared up, except for just the very basic supply and demand that really we're not necessarily in control of at this point. It goes back to the makers. Crossover date is on April the 10th. That means that any bill that hasn't moved through the original body that it was introduced in will basically just sit idle for the rest of the year. Only those bills that have gone through one body into the next will be able to, as they say, cross over. There was a tax study that was released by the state chamber that deals with property taxes. Very interesting, specifically as it relates to South Carolina's Act 388 and our funding for public schools. The Act 388 specifically is not exactly favored as a funding source for our schools. So watch for perhaps some change to come as a result of that. There are a number of alcohol-related bills that are moving through, including curbside and delivery of alcohol, as well as loosening liquor laws in South Carolina. The Ports Authority Economic Development Bond Bill passed. It is actually closely being watched. Hasn't been signed by the governor, but it is something that is being supported in the way as it could, that it sends money and development opportunities for the Jasper County port. So the recent uptick in mentions about the Jasper port is related to that bond bill passing. It was a really, really good get for Jasper for that to have moved through. Federal legislation, of course, you know, the latest stimulus bill has just been signed by the president. It's called the American Rescue Plan. It was a 2.1 trillion, right around $2 trillion bill. It has it's what I affectionately call a kitchen sink bill. Has a lot of appropriations in there for things like, you know, the direct payments to Americans in the way of stimulus bills, but also a lot of money, an additional $7.5 billion to expand PPP. And just heard last night, good thing that we haven't put out any guidance on the fact that PPP was set to expire in terms of applications being accepted by the end of March, because now it looks like as to the 40th iteration of this, that they're going to even extend that. They're going to extend the extension. So watch for the ability now for more businesses to get in on that latest tranche of money to be approved past March 31st. Vaccines, testing, all of that has additional money in the stimulus plan. There's money in there for state and local municipalities for COVID related issues, helping nonprofits with rent and anything that your town is going through. But there's also a really important facet of that bill that's called the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. It's a program being set up by the SBA that's going to provide grants to restaurants, basically filling in the delta of their 2019 subtracted by their 2020 losses. Whatever that delta is there would be returned to them in the way of a grant. And then, of course, there's a big labor law that is being, sorry about that. There's a labor law called the PRO Act that is receiving a lot of attention as well in terms of South Carolina watching it for our right to work laws. So a lot going on there. Sorry about that, Chris. I know it's a lot of information.
A lot coming out fast. They're very good though.
It is, and buckle your seatbelts, because with the both the executive branch as well as the legislative branch being controlled by the Democrats, I think that you're going to see a lot of legislation appointments. All of this moves through very, very fast with the ability to have the majority.
Very good, Hannah. Thank you. Not aware of any old business. Anybody aware of any old business we have for the committee today?
Chris, I've got one old business, and that's just seeing Josh Tiller there and hearing the progress of Hardeeville and thinking back to the years when his dad, Jim, and I wish he could have been on the call today, spent many, many years and many, many hours in trying to help get Hardeeville up and running and developing. And anyway, Josh, just tell him we said hello, and we know where it all started.
We're still working hard on it, so
Good.
I'll let them know. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you, Josh. You know, on the, and if nobody else has any old business, I'll move to new business. And what I just ask you for the new business, and for those of you that are here today, just a lot of really great information on this call. It's quick. I know it's a Zoom right now. We probably all have enough Zoom in our life to last us. Hopefully, maybe by our June 16th meeting, maybe life will have progressed to a point we can be 3 feet apart and maybe have something in person. But I would just encourage you that if there is someone you think should be on this call or should be involved with a call, please reach out and let me know, or let Hannah know. There's just a lot of great information coming out. There's a lot of good stuff going on. You know, we have 5 of these throughout the year. It's just a great opportunity to take a quick hour, catch up on the region, catch up on Bluffton, what's happening, what's really forward thinking, what's coming down the pipe, and how we stay involved and connect